tonight, two teachers who retired from a Gander high school are facing assault charges, accused of abusing students there decades ago. That story and...
Last month, the paper mill in Brook temporarily shut down. Now we can tell you more about what happened leading up to that. That story tonight on Here and Now.
Home support, nutrition in schools and hospitals. The province's financial watchdog is frustrated that government isn't heeding her office's advice.
Well, there is more than 8 feet of mud and dirt and clay right here on Riverside Drive because of that mudslide in early April.
We have to do some drainage work. We have to do a new head wall for that. We have to do new guide rail.
When will the road open again? We'll find out. That's later on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Tonight, we can shed more light on why the Brook paper mill temporarily shut down last month. CBC obtained internal government documents that say there was a major safety concern requiring immediate action. Rob Antle has the details.
Last month, Kruger issued this press release announcing the temporary shutdown of the paper mill in Brook. But now, internal government briefing notes reveal what was happening behind the scenes, concerns about significant public safety issues. The company had been issued a directive nearly a year earlier in May 2023 to develop a program for all safety relief devices for registered pressure systems. It was submitted to the province last July and deemed to meet the requirements. But provincial inspectors later found that the plan was not being implemented as intended. That led them to cancel operating certificates and issue an order to stop the company from operating those devices until issues were fully addressed. Among those issues, some pressure relief devices had not been serviced in more than 30 years, instead of the required every year or every second year. Other equipment wasn't up to codes and standards. The government minister in charge was told that this non-compliance presents a major safety concern and requires immediate action, and company officials acknowledged significant code violations at the mill. When it announced the temporary shutdown a day after the government order was issued, Kruger said employee safety is its top priority. The company said it was working closely with government inspectors. The mill resumed operations more than a month ago. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, CBC News reached out to both the provincial government and Kruger this morning for comment. Neither has granted that request at this point. One other news, a man in his 40s from Peterview is dead after his vehicle collided with a moose on the Trans-Canada Highway. The RCMP says officers responded to the crash in Terra Nova National Park shortly after 10 p.m. yesterday. The driver was pronounced dead after being taken to the Clarenville Hospital. He was the only person inside the vehicle at the time of the crash. An investigation is underway. Well, two retired teachers from Gander Collegiate have been charged with multiple offenses against former students at the school. According to RCMP, the alleged abuse happened in the late 1970s and early 80s. Police say officers have spoken with multiple complainants and believe there may be more victims and witnesses out there who have yet to come forward. 72-year-old Wayne Hurley is being charged with 4 counts of indecent assault as well as a charge of sexual assault. 75-year-old Wayne Oates faces charges of indecent assault and gross indecency. The RCMP says its investigation is ongoing and anyone with more information is asked to contact Gander Police. Well, the province is taking the federal government to court over equalization. It says the current formula is unfair, and since the federal politicians won't fix it, they're asking for a judge to take a look at it. Here Now's Peter Cowan joins us now to break it down for us. So, Peter, what are the government's concerns?
Well, equalization is supposed to put provinces on an equal footing so they can provide an equal level of service at an equal level of taxation. But the province says the current formula is unfair. This year, Newfoundland and Labrador expects to receive $218 million in equalization. This is actually the first time in 15 years that Newfoundland has received any money, but it's not a lot. By comparison, Nova Scotia will get $3.2 billion this year. The formula is complicated, but Newfoundland doesn't receive very much because of high oil royalties and higher incomes. But the finance minister says that leaves out that our costs are so much higher.
We have the highest cost in health here, the highest cost in education. There's a reason for that. Now, if we are to have the reasonable level of service at the reasonable level of taxation, then that's when the equalization formula should come in. So treat us fairly and correctly and equitably in our country. That's what we're asking for. That's what we're fighting for.
Now, the province has tried to make the argument that politicians that the formula should change, but earlier this year it was renewed, that same formula, until 2029 with very little change. So the province says their only option now is to go to court. The PCs and the NDP say this is more about politics than policy.
Well, unless they're trying to, the traditional, pick a fight with Ottawa to support the base and try to, boost support for the government, a play right out of the Danny Williams playbook here. Other than that, this should have been taken care of a long time ago. This should have been done when they first got in 2015.
So is this a political or a legal battle? Well, a political science professor says on the legal side, it's unlikely to be successful.
There's probably some, good political reasons for kind of challenging the federal government on this. But I was also surprised because although I am not a legal scholar, I don't think this has any chance of succeeding.
Now, politically, Newfoundland and Labrador is getting some support. The Premier of Saskatchewan tweeted his support today, saying they'll do what they can to back Newfoundland and Labrador's case. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Well, the province's new ambulance system comes into effect this weekend, and that means starting on Saturday, help for all parts of the province will be a 3-digit phone call away. Here Now's Mark Quinn has more.
Effective June 1st, the Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services will take over management and deliver all road ambulance services in the province.
Those old fridge magnets with the phone number of the local ambulance can go in the trash. Starting Saturday, this is all you need.
Most important thing is call 911 if you need an ambulance. The 7 or 10-digit number with the area code will no longer be used.
The health authority says moving to one publicly funded ambulance service will mean better ambulance services for residents.
When you pick up the phone and you're in an emergency situation, your basic expectation is that you're getting the closest vehicle with the crew on board that vehicle that has the skill set to deal with your emergency. And the changes that we're putting in place as of June 1st will certainly enable that to be true.
Osborne says it also means the province will soon have hundreds more public employees, people who used to work for privately owned ambulance services.
Paramedicine staff that have worked with private and community operators. All of them are welcome into the public system as public employees, and we have approximately 500 who have indicated their intention to join the public service. So those individuals will now be receiving public pensions, public salaries, opportunity for enhancement in terms of training.
The province is still working on integration of all air ambulance services. Osborne says it will still use planes, but the new air service will rely more on helicopters. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
The Auditor General issued a report card today. The province's financial watchdog has made many recommendations in the last 7 years. But as Here and Now's Heather Gillis reports, the AG says the province doesn't seem to be listening.
It's the second time Auditor General Denise Hanrahan has released a report like this. It goes back over recommendations her office has made, checking in with government departments and other bodies to see if they've made improvements. 69 recommendations, or 40% of those issued between 2016 and 2020, haven't been enacted. Most recommendations, 83%, are from before 2017.
For context, that means 2 out of 5 recommendations remain outstanding. Last year it was 1 in 3, so the trend is worsening. I am concerned that recommendations issued nearly a decade ago are still not fully resolved, and certainly not a trend I'm encouraged by.
The recommendations range everything from how organizations are governed to fraud management, policy compliance, or rules around conflict of interest. The biggest offenders listed here, with the most outstanding recommendations sit at the top of this chart.
And the outstanding recommendations cover really important areas such as home support, road ambulance, acute care bed management, nutrition in schools and health facilities, school busing, and healthy active living programs that are still outstanding and can be approved on all those key areas.
Hanrahan says it's all about accountability, lessening risks to the public purse, and making government more efficient. She finds it frustrating when her office's recommendations aren't implemented.
I won't give up on these topics and these subject areas until I see resolution.
Meanwhile, the Auditor General and her team have already started looking into healthcare contracts, including how goods and services are procured, and those contracts for travel nurses. She also has some preliminary results.
And I think we've all heard about the air fryer, but news to me was paying for a milk frother. If you get into the details of these expenses, we're seeing things that would appear to not be reasonable in a public sector light to reimburse someone for. So certainly those details will come out in our report.
Hanrahan says the public can expect her report on health contracts to be released by the end of this year. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Say it ain't snow. Here's what people in Lab West woke up to this morning. Not even furry four-legged friends were excited to see this stuff. That few centimeters of late May snow did cause some slowdowns this morning. Local schools were delayed by a few hours before classes got back on track. Thanks to everyone who was quick to share their snow photos with us, but there is some good news ahead. There's certainly some warm weather on the way. So yeah, lots of snow. We do have that cold air for most of Labrador. In fact, today, a very different story across the island, but you can see that really edging in and heading south at the moment. The good news is it isn't going to stick around very much longer. This is what it looks like right now. The snow, in fact, is pretty much gone. There's some light snow falling now, about 1 degree with your winds out of the northeast. But if we head through the next couple of hours, you're going to see the chance of some flurries, but that will end, and temperatures tomorrow much warmer. So if there is still a little bit on the ground anywhere, I do think that a little bit to the north, though, you're seeing some more snow, but that should definitely go away. Temperatures today a little warmer than yesterday across Labrador, and very much warmer across portions of the island today. 14 degrees warmer. In fact, in St. John's, reached 20 degrees for the first time this year. Some of the warmest air that we have seen since September, and I'll tell you how long that's going to stick around when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, some temporary changes to the Fogo Island Change Islands ferry run to tell you about. Starting Saturday, the MV Beaumont Hamel will take over that route. The MV Astron will also continue to service Fogo Island Change Islands. Both vessels will operate the 2-vessel summer schedule. Meanwhile, the Department of Transportation says the MV Legionnaire will continue to service the Belle Island route on an enhanced 1-vessel schedule. For nearly 2 months, Riverside Drive in Corner Brook has been closed. A major landslide pushed mounds of dirt and debris onto the road, causing lots of damage. Here in Now's Colleen Connors learns more about the cleanup and what the city is doing to stop a landslide from happening again.
This is day 2 for replacing posts and installing new guardrails, about 100 meters of them. The landslide pushed mounds and mounds of clay, dirt, and trees onto the road, disrupting the integrity of the rails. City crews are busy in the warm, sunny weather, installing proper drainage at the landslide site. If all goes to plan, Riverside Drive should open in 2 weeks.
Once we get the guide rail and the surface work done, we'll be able to open. If there's a little bit of work we have to do after the fact, that's fine.
People in the city have heard that before. Geotechnical consultants thought they knew what happened here in early April. After conducting light detecting and ranging scans, they discovered the damage was a lot worse. Water had been pooling in the ground at the top for quite some time. When that large rain event happened in early April, it overwhelmed the area and it gave way. Part of this cleanup and repair today is to ensure a landslide doesn't happen again.
We may have to implement some kind of a plan to close the road if we have rains over a certain level in a certain amount of time.
Corner Brook is now seeing strong rainfalls in every season, with a sinkhole last summer and significant flooding in 2018. Parsons says with each new infrastructure project like this one, the city is adding extra reinforcement and extra drainage to combat the changing climate.
And so we're trying to build back overly robust. And that's all we can do to try and mitigate these things. Obviously, we can't change the climate here.
Parsons wouldn't say exactly how much this Riverside Drive cleanup is costing the city, but it is definitely hundreds of thousands of dollars. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, an advocate for early childhood educators says it's still not clear what medical benefits ECEs will receive from the province, and there's also uncertainty around their retirement. The government says a pension plan for ECEs is a complicated but continuing conversation. Over 50% of early childhood educators in this province don't receive health or dental benefits, and 80% don't have a pension plan. The founder of advocacy group ABCs and ECEs is calling on government to act.
So we're still waiting to hear when they're going to announce a pension plan, right? This has to happen. Nova Scotia's done it. PEI's done it, and there's really no reason why we can't do it here. So we know that this is sort of in conversation, but the kind of message is like ECEs can't wait. We need to be acting now. 42% of early childhood educators are considering leaving the field already because of low pay and some of these workforce issues, and we can't afford to lose anybody.
Well, an event at the St. John's Airport this morning brought together young women to explore careers in aviation. The Elevate Aviation cross-country tour gave some students an inside look at the industry with a special focus on women and other marginalized groups in that industry. And flying isn't the only way into the field. One search and rescue technician was excited to connect with some young women.
It's really interesting, and it's like a very exciting time because, you know, things like this didn't happen when I was young. So it's just nice to be able to educate, open the minds, and hopefully have some interests. And then in the next 5, 10, 15 years, just see more women in aviation, more of us represented, and all sorts of roles from maintenance, pilot, and all that. Yeah.
Well, the provincial government is considering changing the legal age to buy tobacco products. The province says it's seeking input on possible changes to tobacco sales. It's asking for feedback on increasing the legal age to purchase tobacco products to 21, or preventing people born after a certain date from buying tobacco. There will also be an opportunity to provide feedback on vaping products, and an online questionnaire will be available on the Engage NL website in early June.
I'm here in Glovertown near the mouth of the Terra Nova River, where there is a smote wheel set up by conservation groups to count young salmon as they enter salt water.
And you can do some calculations with the total amount of smolts you catch, the total amount tagged, and then the total amount of recaptures that we're getting to kind of get an estimate smolt run.
That story coming up on Here and Now.
Well, some of the nicest weather across the province through central and eastern areas of the island. We've got some cooler temperatures to the north. It's all going to change. I'll tell you all about it coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The absolute final deadline is midnight Friday, June 7th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, Ashley, it's like Mother Nature flicked a switch and all of a sudden it's summer. A lot of people in the east and on the Avalon broke out their shorts for the first time today. The legs were out, no jackets required. What a day in St. John's.
Yeah, places like Bannerman Park downtown were buzzing this afternoon. Great day to soak up the sunshine. It's kind of hard to not be in a good mood on a day like today. That German Shepherd is definitely in a good mood. Yeah, a lot of people smiling, a lot of people with a twinkle in their eye today. You're right, it's definitely hard to be in a bad mood on a sunshiny day like this. Yeah, especially when we see the first time that we reached the 20-degree mark. I know lots of other places across the province through central, west coast, even up across Labrador, have all reached their 20-degree days, but today was finally our day. 24 degrees is where we topped out in St. John's. 23 Terra Nova, Gander not far behind that at 22 degrees. Still a beautiful day on the west coast as well, reaching 18, so not as warm as yesterday, but still a lovely afternoon. And as I mentioned a little earlier, not the case up across Labrador, just topping out around 1-2 degrees today. A little warmer, though, towards the southeast. Mary's Harbour topped out at about 13 degrees. So there were a number of places seeing high temperatures. The highest was Norris Arm. Rattling Brook, Norris Arm, 26 degrees this afternoon. Quite warm out there. Grand Falls, Windsor, 25.5. And like I said, in St. John's, 24 degrees this afternoon. That is the warmest temperature since September. So it, unfortunately, though, is not going to stick around. But we started quite mild today, 12 degrees as 12 to 14 degrees, depending on when you left the house this morning. And we topped out at, like I said, 24, those westerly winds. But that was around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Temperature just down about a degree at the moment. And taking a look at the current temperatures and humidex values, our humidex values topped out at 27 earlier this afternoon, and not nearly as humid as it was yesterday for the west coast. Corner Brook down to 16 degrees right now. And really, this will be the end of it for a little while. So we've still got some snow being reported up across portions of Labrador, particularly in the west. That will end over the next couple of hours. A beautiful afternoon and evening still happening, but we do have some high cloud moving in across the island or across the Avalon at the moment. That's going to continue to work its way north tonight, but really not a whole lot to talk about weather-wise through the overnight, especially across the island. Just flurries possible for central areas of Labrador tonight, so around Happy Valley, Goose Bay, maybe even towards the coast. You may see some flurries. I don't think that it will accumulate too much, but it should mix with rain as well. By the time we get into tomorrow morning, another round of showers will move in. That will be the story for the Avalon, parts of the south coast, and the west coast as well. Overnight lows are only going to dip to about 11 degrees tonight in St. John's. Otherwise, single digits. Winds generally lighter, around 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. Temperatures cooler, though, for the north and west of Labrador, -2, -4. Otherwise hovering around about +2 for the rest of the Big Land. Now, as we head into tomorrow, it is going to be overall unsettled. Areas through central, you may see a few peaks of sun in the mix, but still looking at that chance of some showers. This area of low pressure, unfortunately, will stick around for a few days, and really in the long range, not looking great either as far as the forecast is concerned, especially for eastern Newfoundland. But we've got that onshore flow moving back in, so that is why the temperatures will be cooler tomorrow. Like I said, the best chance of seeing some sunshine will be through areas of central, maybe even the south coast as well. But the weather really improving up across Labrador, especially for the north and west. You will see some sunshine in the mix tomorrow. So if you do still have some flurries from tonight sticking around tomorrow, they'll be gone. And we'll just see some cloud cover for central and southeastern Labrador. But you can see really the showers will continue right through Saturday, unfortunately. And at this point, it looks like even into Sunday. That is not out of the question. Temperatures tomorrow are going to sit somewhere between 10 to about 13 or 14 degrees, maybe even reaching about 16. But the wind's still out of the southeast. So if you are right towards the coast, you may see your temperatures cooler than that, about 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. But like I said, south may see some sunshine tomorrow. That'll be the story through central, and that's where we should see some warmer temperatures. So more like the mid to upper teens tomorrow. Twillingate still hovering around 10 degrees. And for the west coast, your winds will be out of the north. You're looking between 10 to about 18 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Northern Peninsula with those northeasterly winds, southeastern Labrador as well, barely reaching about 6 or 7 degrees tomorrow afternoon with the chance of some showers. But again, a few peaks of sun in there in the mix for sure. At 9 to 11 degrees for the north and the west. Tomorrow your winds will be out of the north, though, around 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. This is just the beginning because there are some 20-degree temperatures in your long-range forecast, and we'll talk about that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, here's a question. When a young salmon smolt swims up a river, where does it go? Well, a project on the Terranova River is tracking the movement of young fish, and turns out those fish do get around. Here Now's Troy Turner brings us this story.
That thing in the river looks kind of familiar, kind of like the back end of a cement truck. It's a smolt wheel. It's here in the Terranova River, tracking young salmon.
A new device that's being used in Newfoundland. It's been used other places, but it's never been used on the island of Newfoundland before. And it's to capture smolt as they're migrating out of the river to the ocean. And we capture so many, and they're a sample of what comes out of the river.
Volunteers with the Freshwater Alexander Bays Ecosystem Corporation teamed up with the Atlantic Salmon Federation and DFO. Here's how the wheel works. Smolt swim into this large cone and it guides them into a holding tank. From there, the small fish are taken from the tank and brought to shore. This is the tricky part. There's careful attention to keep them healthy because now there's this part, the tagging. It's a riverside surgery. The smolt get a shot of anesthetic, a small incision, a transmitter tag goes inside the belly. A couple of stitches later, the smolt is back in the water.
About a month ago, we put 10 receivers out in the bay at strategic locations, going out to the headlands. So as the fish pass, the receivers will pick up the tag number and the ID. So that gives us a bunch of different information. I guess most importantly, the migration routes, the time it's taking for the fish to move out the bay, and I guess most importantly, their survival. One of the biggest unknown factors with salmon when they go to sea is sea survival, because there's not that much information about the fish. So we have receivers here in this bay, but the Atlantic Salmon Federation has a line of receivers up off northern Labrador, and there's receivers off northern Newfoundland. So as these fish pass by these receivers, they'll get picked up. And there's even receivers far as Greenland.
It's more than just tracking. The project is about a list of environmental factors.
This is just one small component. We're using this to help determine the freshwater productivity, but then we're also going to be looking at different components of the watershed. So we'll be doing water temperature monitoring, water quality monitoring. They'll be doing some electrofishing to get the first couple age class density assessments.
This wheel in the river is also spinning out some education about the salmon population.
I think it's very important because part of the reason they're doing this is so not to, they're not waiting for the ecosystem to start failing and then help it. They're doing this as a precaution. So 100 years from now, that this ecosystem is still healthy with lots of fish and other organisms that are also healthy.
It's definitely refreshing from being inside the classroom all day to go outside and do some learning about some stuff that we usually don't learn in the classroom.
For the local salmon conservation group, it's data that can be used to help rivers survive.
2021, we had parts of our river, the Terranova River, go totally dry. We have pictures of dry riverbed. So that's a big risk factor that we have to deal with now. And so part of our conservation planning has to be, how do we mitigate climate change and respond to the threats from climate change that are happening.
It's going great. We got great community support. The FAVEC crew is doing a great job keeping it operating. Yeah, no, it's been really successful so far.
Over the coming days, the conservation groups will continue to collect data and tag fish caught here in the smote wheel. And while this is a first for the island portion of the province, it won't be the last time we see this apparatus, as the smote wheel will be set up here on the Terra Nova River for the next 5 years. Troy Turner, CBC News, Glovertown.
Yellow fisherman overalls. They wear that. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know why.
Well, a Canadian drag icon is set to headline St. John's Pride. Chrissy Holmes catches up with Brooklyn Heights. That's just ahead.
Nobody's really looking at the child and what they need, right? They're looking at income brackets that don't mean anything, and like different diagnoses come with different needs.
What's going to happen when Jason and I pass away? Who's going to look after her? Those thoughts are constantly with you.
It's not consistent and it's not given to everyone.
You always feel a sense of guilt, like you're not being able to give everything to each child.
She brightens our days every day.
Well, the St. John's Pride Festival announced the lineup for this year's Pride After Dark, and Canadian drag icon Brooklyn Heights will be the headline performer. Now, Brooklyn Heights became the first Canadian to appear on RuPaul's Drag Race and is now in the history books as the first queen to host and judge her own spin-off of that show. Now, earlier today, On the Go host Chrissy Holmes spoke with the star of Canada's Drag Race.
Well, Brooklyn, the word is out. Can you feel the buzz coming off of St. John's right now?
I can feel it all the way here in Chicago, Illinois. It's just radiating from the east.
Chicago, I mean, just take us inside your world for a moment. What are you doing, and what does a montage in the day of the life of Brooklyn look like right now?
Well, there's no real normalcy or routine in my life because, like, I don't have like a set schedule, you know, like it just changes every week what I'm doing and where I am. So, but like when I'm at home, a typical day is I wake up probably around 6 or 7 a.m. I go to the gym. That's always my first thing. I walk up to the gym and grab my coffee. And then I come home and I kind of, I always tend to like go through my drag room and just kind of like sort things out and put things away from the trip before and everything. Spend time with my cats. I usually go for a really nice bike ride along the lake, which is right by my house. Catch up on some TV. It's not very exciting when I'm home.
You had us at drag room. Please describe, take us in there.
My drag room, oh my gosh, it's floor to ceiling wigs and costumes and rhinestones and jewelry, and I still don't have enough room for everything. So I have a second bedroom in my house that is also full of drag now. So Brooklyn has taken over 2 rooms in my house, and I have my own bedroom, and I'm stuck in a corner somewhere.
Well, you know, being the Queen of the North, I'm sure you get a lot of requests. So why was it important to accept this invitation to come be part of St. John's Pride?
Well, I've been wanting to come to Newfoundland forever. And it just has never worked out. The timing has never been right. And so when I got this offer, I jumped at it because I was like, yes, finally, I get to go to the East Coast and really experience that part of Canada that I've always wanted to go to. So I'm just beyond thrilled to be coming to Newfoundland and to St. John's for Pride.
What do you know about the drag scene in Newfoundland and Labrador? We've seen huge growth, but from your end of things, what are you aware of right now?
Well, we've had someone from Newfoundland on the show on Canada's Drag Race, Irma Gerd. So I know that Newfoundland drag is weird and wacky and fun, and I'm very excited to experience it in person. I don't know a whole lot about it because there's just so much drag in Canada, it's hard to keep up with it all, but I'm really excited to experience it in person.
There's been so much noise around the drag scene in recent years, and being the best known drag icon in Canada, the volume, right? It must be so loud on some days, both from those who love what you do and those who don't like what you do. How are you coping with everything that comes with an expanding spotlight?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, there's been a lot of, obviously there's been a real uptick in how visible the art of drag is because of RuPaul's Drag Race. We've really been put into the mainstream and had a big spotlight shone on us, which is great in a lot of ways. But then with the good comes the bad, and people kind of just making up lies about the community and just putting these labels on us that are not at all true. Remember all the joy you bring people. And I always look back and think about like all the young people out there who watch us and get inspired by us. And like, I can't imagine what it would be like to be a young person and just see drag on TV. Like when I was young, we didn't have anything even remotely close to that. So just to be able to remember all the joy and happiness we bring people, and that just makes me really happy. And then you just got to protect your peace and just kind of muffle out the noise.
You definitely set a tone when you walk in a room. How should St. John's prepare?
Put on your best outfits and let's go dancing. All the glitter.
Well, former Land and Sea host Pauline Thornhill received a special honor last night. Here's some of what she had to say coming up. Well, former Land and Sea host Pauline Thornhill received an honorary degree from Memorial University at the Arts and Culture Centre last night. She spoke about the many lessons, big and small, she learned during the 29 years she hosted the show, telling the stories of people living in every nook and cranny in this province.
When I look back on it, I realize Land and Sea was my real university. Through that job, I learned all things great and small about this province, how we eat, how we speak, how we think, how we live. I learned in Fortune Bay, you put turkey necks in your pea soup. If you haven't tried it, you should, it's delicious. I learned that if you have an air mattress, you can sleep on any rocky beach, anywhere, or on the wheelhouse floor of a smelly crab boat, or in a cabin infested with bats. I learned how to poop in the woods. Now you might laugh, but if you're in Labrador in winter and you're in a one-piece snowsuit, pooping in the woods can be very tricky business. I learned these small things, but I also learned huge things about this province. I've seen the fishery change and evolve. I've seen wooden boats being built. I've seen elder Inuit women preparing sealskins with their ulus, their women's knives. I've traveled on dog team and on snow machine to places people can only dream of seeing. Places where there are northern lights and polar bears. Places where you can truly believe there are spirits in the wind. I've seen abandoned outports, and I've seen isolated outports where people continue to thrive, where they hang on like the barnacles on the rocks, strong and determined, just like most of us in this province. I say I've seen these things, but it was never just me. I always traveled with a land and sea crew, the cameraman, the sound person, and me. And together, no matter how rough the conditions were, no matter how big the challenges, that crew always gave me what I needed to bring the story home. And I'm proud of what we accomplished together. This honor is really as much theirs as it is mine. You know, a job is an essential part of life. It pays the mortgage, it pays the bills, it puts food on the table. But if you're really lucky, like I was, your job will become more than that. It will become a part of you. And if you ever get to that point where your job does become more than just that thing that pays the bills, you will know you have landed in the right spot. I think the university hoped I'd be able to pass on a little bit of wisdom to you tonight. But all I can really say to you is what my mom said to me all those years ago. You can be whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. This day and age, you can be whoever you want. Don't ever forget that, and don't ever doubt it. Now, graduates, go forth and prosper. God love every one of you. Thank you.
A national task force is not recommending mammograms for women under 50 who are of average risk. Now, that goes against recent advice from the Canadian Cancer Society that testing should begin at 40, something Newfoundland and Labrador adopted earlier this month. As Tashana Reid reports, it sparked a fierce debate in the medical community and beyond.
Strong words from Canada's health minister about new draft recommendations for breast cancer screening.
I'm concerned and I'm disappointed.
Adding, he's asking for an additional review by the chief medical health officers from across the country.
The guidelines that have been released by the task force simply stated don't conform with the conversations that I've had with experts across the country.
The Canadian Task Force on Preventative Healthcare says after a thorough review of research and data, they don't see the benefit in lowering breast cancer screening to women under 50.
We recommended against systematic screening because the harms are big and the benefits are small.
Some of those harms, they say, are unnecessary tests or biopsies and anxiety for individuals who may not have cancer in the end, but added that for patients who do want a mammogram, they should be allowed.
So if they choose to be screened, they should not be denied access. That should be provided to them by the provincial screening programs.
Currently, it's a patchwork system across the country. Some provinces and territories have moved to offer screening earlier. In Yukon, British Columbia, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, and Newfoundland, women have access at 40, and Ontario will start this fall, while Alberta and Northwest Territories start screening at 45. The rest of the country has stayed at 50.
It makes me angry for all Canadians. Where we live in this country shouldn't dictate our access to the standard of care of medicine.
2 years ago, Fernanda Dominguez Perticaris pushed for a mammogram at age 49, despite her doctor saying it wasn't necessary. 1 month later, she was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She had surgery and multiple rounds of chemo and radiation.
If this had been caught even earlier, had I had a mammogram a year earlier or 2 years earlier, who's to say that I would have needed chemo at that point?
The draft guidelines will now be up for public consultation for 60 days and possibly longer if needed. Tashana Reid, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, to the United States now, where a jury has just found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records at his hush money trial in New York. Trump has become the first former U.S. president to be convicted of felony crimes. At the center of the charges were reimbursements paid to Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, to bury alleged stories about damaging sex scandals during his 2016 presidential campaign. Now, Trump is expected to appeal the charges. All right, well, back here at home, the sun is shining, and I'm calling it today marks the start of shorts season in St. John's. Hopefully, the sunshine will last a little bit longer. Bannerman Park was on wheels, as you can see today, and Ashley will let us know how long this will be sticking around in her long-range forecast coming up. I feel like maybe the rest of the province is probably like just one big eye roll because we're so excited about the sunshine that we're seeing in St. John's and the East, but everywhere else has been seeing this kind of weather for ages now.
Very fortunate.
So forgive us for being so excited.
Yeah, it's just it is nice to be able to go outside in a dress and not be chilly.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to be said about that. But unfortunately, the not very nice weather is going to move back in.
All right. Well,
It was short-lived.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It was nice while it lasted.
It was. Let's take a look at what's going on. So Friday evening. So tomorrow is really when we're going to start with some of that wet weather. It's going to continue through Saturday. Unfortunately, really, I don't even see that much sun at all across the island. We may see some peaks for the southwest, but that's about it for most of the day. Some more rounds of showers will move in later on in the afternoon. For most of eastern Newfoundland, that onshore flow will continue. So that means areas along the northeast coast will see cooler temperatures. Now, Labrador, very different story. Absolutely beautiful. Sunshine, mild temperatures through the day on Saturday as well. Take a look at these daytime highs, anywhere from 13 to 19 degrees through the day. Now, along the strait, a little cooler, only around 10 degrees, and then really single digits across the island as we head into your Saturday. Now, with the exception of along the south coast, that's because you're in offshore flow, but you're looking at between 10 to 12 degrees through the day. Now, Sunday, this is also going to stick around. Periods of rain, really, right through Monday. So the weekend, not great for outdoor activities. And your onshore flow means cooler temperatures as well. Easterly winds, maybe a little bit more in the way of southeasterly winds through the day. But most of the island will be seeing lots of rain, southeastern Labrador as well. But the rest of the big land will just see clouds on the increase through the day. Temperatures, though, beautiful across Labrador, 16 to 22 degrees. Again, cooler along the strait. Same thing for the northern peninsula, single digits, and then somewhere between 11 to about 17 degrees for the remainder of the island through Sunday. Now, long-range forecast showing rain and fog and temperatures between 11 to 13 degrees. So it is around seasonal, but it's not nice. Carolyn's giving me a look right now. Sunday, rain. Monday, Tuesday for Central looking absolutely gorgeous. So a little bit of a turnaround there, 22 to 23 degrees. And then Western Newfoundland, you're looking at that warm up as well. By the time we get into the beginning of next week, look at that. Gorgeous weather in Eastern Labrador. Some rain maybe on Monday, but Tuesday, 26 degrees and warming up across Western Labrador as well. Around 21 to 24 degrees to start the work week. This was the shot today.
Oh,
a little bit of fog there creeping up over Fort Amherst there. Thank you so much. This is the shot from Signal Hill. Pauline shared this great shot with us. And if you have any that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
It's so pretty. I was amazed this morning. I don't know who else got out early out by Kitty Vitty Lake, and it was sunshine, but just this, looks like a cloud just descended on the lake with all the rowers there, and just amazing to see it, how the fog can roll in and then just dissipate like
just
that.
Roll right out.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for us. I'm going to be off for a couple of weeks. I think Peter Cowan's going to be here with you tomorrow. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks and hope you have a great night.
Good night.